This is very, very, very special, especially for these two filmmakers because they're local. And we have, on different ends of the spectrum, veteran, legendary filmmaker who's been in independent filmmaking for a few decades, right? And then Emory, who is a homegrown filmmaker, started in the Our Real Voices program. And I'm just so proud of the work that you're doing, and thanks to both of you for doing something that is so incredibly personal on different levels. And it was great that we had this kind of dramatic pause at the very end, because I think we all need to take a breath after watching this, because some of us have had quite a bit of distance from the heart of the pandemic. And I'm sure as you watch these films, you too can reflect and think about your own experience. And in fact, my grandmother passed away the second month of COVID in the hospital. She was 99 and she died alone. And so, and all of us know those kind of stories, right? So anyhow, Z, I want to give you an opportunity, and Emory, if there's anybody that you need a shout out, and we know we have cast and crew here, so let's do that and get that out of the way. Go ahead, Zeinabu.
Well, we have a lot, so sorry. It's gonna take a minute. Screenwriter Mark Cherry. Production designer Mariah Hayes. Also head of Real Voices. Romel and Daya.
Yes.
Yes. Norbert Shea. Angela Park. Christina Reed. Nicolette Evangelista. And of course, my actresses, all three are here, Princess Police Line. Claire Simba. And unforgettable Becca Godin. And we also have our supporting actress, Evelyn. Also, Evelyn. And Giancarlo, are you here?
I don't think so.
No. Is anybody else I did?
Alexis?
Oh, my AD! Alexis!
I think Prop and Wardrobe Master is the best.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Isabella, Selena, Joe. I don't think she's here. Probably at the bonfire. Who else?
Nicole,
Oh my God!
politely raising his hand, our sound designer.
Cool. Sound designer extraordinaire. Yes, yes, yes. Jojo.
I'm right here.
Jojo. Thank you. Thank you.
And shout out to Rizal, because you
Oh,
shot at her house,
Of
right?
course, yes. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Could not have done it without you. For real. I think we got everybody.
Okay, that was quite the village. Emory, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out?
Yes, so well, we did our principal production in like the end of 2021. So I think it was still a bit more. We had a very kind of small crew and kind of observing a lot of safety protocols. But I do want to shout out my roommate, partner in DP, Ferris Sue. She was tucked behind the car seat. In the car scene, we had an iPad app to connect to the GoPro, so it was a fun time. So, thank you very much.
So different questions for, let's start from the title of your film, Pandemic Bread, and To Write From Memory, and just how you decided that this was the story that you needed to tell at this time. Z, let's start with you.
I have to give credit where credit's due. Fortunately, she's not here. She's a globetrotter, so she's in Malaga, Spain right now. But Mari V. Sullivan is the writer of this story, and that's her title, was Pandemic Bread. Because she, if you follow Mari V on Instagram, or Facebook, she's like a food, chef extraordinaire, and she baked a lot of bread during the pandemic.
Yeah, I followed her, and extraordinary amount of baked goods coming out of her kitchen. So this was based on her story, and she was also a translator as well?
Yes, this is like, the story is her story, but fictional.
Okay, got it. And Emory, tell us about, I mean, you really laid bare, talk about blood, sweat, and tears, putting blood, sweat, and tears into a film. Why did you decide that this was the time to make this film?
Well, during the middle of the so right before kind of lockdown went into effect, I had submitted my paperwork to finally get my name legally changed, and then the lockdown happened, and I didn't really know where that status was. It's kind of limbo. So I got my official paperwork of the certified name change kind of delayed, and funny enough, I was still in my graduate film program. And I thought, oh, if I'm doing Zoom school, I guess I have more time, I don't have to commute. So I decided to try to take elementary Chinese. And for that, they had us choose or give our kind of our Chinese names. And so I found that as an opportunity to kind of, kind of reclaim that and find something that kind of fits me more now. And so I was just looking at the different characters, and someone recommended the name Chao Molly. And so the title character Mo comes from that name. But I will say that I would say, like, don't trust everything you see, because there's a bit of an unreliability to it, because of characters can mean a lot of different things. But I think we latch onto the definitions or descriptions that we resonate with. So that's kind of where the name came from.
Okay, and there's kind of a little bit of a double meaning, right? Because you're also going through some memories of your conversations with your mom, and I'm assuming that those conversations with your mother were that wasn't your mother, right? It was a voiceover, correct? Or were they actual conversations?
Yeah, so we kind of, I wrote a script for this, so some of the conversations are loosely connected by my own experiences, and also kind of conversations from the greater kind of trans, mask, Asian American community that I'm part of. So we kind of wrote the script, and I was really interested in this idea of recording conversations as a form of self-preservation, and also interesting how recording conversations, the legality of that changes between state to state. So I think that was something I was interested in playing with, so I was really adamant about kind of really creating this sonic atmosphere that kind of intertwines and blurs and mixes with the video or the imagery. So that's kind of about that, but that's beyond the point. But so we had we did the voice actors over Zoom, so I mailed them some voice recorders. We did everything over Zoom and rehearsals over Zoom, and then they sent me their voice recorders back, and I just pieced everything together with the help with our wonderful sound post-production team.
Well, thank you so much for that. I really, really enjoyed both of your films. And let's talk about your methodology in how you approach the film. So, Z, you come from the LA filmmaking school of rebellion, of black cinema, and talk about your philosophy and this whole village that you brought in together and why that is important to you.
I'm happy to know this fellow UCLA up in the house. So
Bruins.
that's right. The rebellion continues. Yes, yes. When we were coming up, the LA Rebellion Filmmakers is mostly identified as more black identified filmmakers who came out of UCLA's film school from the 60s until the 90s, but Emory's one of us too, so hello. It continues basically. But our mission was really to make sure that communities were the ones who helped us make our films. We don't rely on Hollywood or studios to make the films that we want to make, because we want to have autonomy over whatever the message is that we want to get out, and we want to have more true representations of all of the folks who are in our communities. And so in making Pandemic Red, it was important for me to make sure that we had as many people as possible, from Mari V and JoJo and everybody, kind of just informing everything that I was trying to do with the film to include, you know, various communities. Filipino community was the hardest hit of the communities in San Diego due to COVID, but you would never know that if you looked at mainstream cinema or mainstream media, news, period. And so it was important to me to make sure that we recognize that and that we try to incorporate elements of the story and culture into this particular film, because it's important for all of us to be able to see ourselves. Yeah.
I know that there was a little bit of concern as a Black filmmaker taking on a script that is very Filipino-centric and from a Filipino point of view. Tell us how you approach that to keep it true to Marie V's vision.
It's one word: listen. You know, listen and learn and take in and respect, you know, what her vision was. There are some things in the film that she didn't agree with, but I stood my ground. We stood our ground. Marco would confess with me. But there were other things that we knew that we wanted to, and like even Roselle, just like helping with her artwork and having that be a part of the overall vision and the altars that JoJo and everybody else helped us make. Those were the things that were important to me. And a lot of this, we all experienced COVID from humanity, it wasn't specifically one population. You know, we all experienced it, we're still experiencing it. So it was important to me to just collaborate and really collaborate. I'm not a director who's like, I'm the great director, you listen to what I say. No, it's more a family, or it's a group of us coming together to create these like stories and visions and bring things together. So that was what was important.
And I think that really came through. And that takes a lot of work, especially during a time when it really was in the middle of the pandemic. You know, and on the other side, Emory, you had a much smaller village, right? You were kind of collaborating with yourself, right? And then your roommate and your partner. And so did you feel a sense of, because I'm going to only speak for myself, very rarely do we get a chance to see something so intimate on a subject that is oftentimes considered taboo. And so did you feel a sense of pressure of knowing that there's so much misinformation, disinformation out there on how you presented yourself and the choices that you made in visually how you presented the film?
That's a good question. I think for me, when I was making this process, I'm sure kind of those concerns and doubts were there, but I feel like I was really leaning on and pulling from a greater community of artists that I was really inspired by. For example, I was really moved. I didn't even watch the film, I only read about it. A film by Yvonne Welboom called Remembering Wei Fang, Remembering Myself. And I only watched it recently, but in that film she kind of explores the multiplicity of selves. And so kind of approaching this film, I got the courage to kind of be able to kind of lift the kind of conversations that are often shamed or quiet. And I think it's important to bring light to how some of these notions, because of cultural differences, they can get conflated and misunderstood. So I think through making this film, hopefully it kind of brings light to, there's a lot more understanding and also awareness of where people are coming from.
So many different layers, including just conversations with an Asian mom. Can any of you relate to that? I think one of the programmers who's not of Asian descent was like, "Mom's so mean." It's like, no, man, that's how Asian moms talk to us. It's the truth, right? Z, talk to us about the casting process, and you got some really great actors in this film, including our three leads, who we're going to bring down in just a little bit to share their own experiences. And just the timing, it's so difficult to have made this film during the time in which you did. Can you talk about the casting process and the fact that the doctor was not originally, right, was originally a white doctor, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
probably. It's Dr. Goldstein.
Okay, oh, right.
So, but I told Marvy, I said, that was the first thing I asked her. I said, look, I really want to do the story, but we had to change the race and gender of the doctor. Because it's a Zeinabu Davis film, hello. So thankfully she was okay with that, and we got an incredible performance from Claire Simba. I mean, it's like, the casting, it's kind of funny. Princess Punchline came on right away. I mean, we had an hour and a half. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. We ended up talking on Zoom for an hour and a half. And she told me about her experiences as a hospice nurse and the things that she had gone through. And we were desperate. We could not find a woman, a Filipina actress who could speak Tagalog. We found Filipino American ones, but they didn't have the right dialect. And Marvy is like, no, it's got to be right. And I was like, okay, Marvy. And luckily for me, I think like 30 minutes after Princess finished her audition at the Malcolm X library, she calls me up on the phone. I have somebody who I think might be perfect for this. And I'm like, okay. I said, Becca Godina, she lives right down the street from me. And I was like, oh my God, hello. Because we were gonna bring in an actress from Toronto or somebody from New York because we couldn't find anybody. And thank Princess, thank God, Goddess is everybody. Princess actually filmed Becca's audition. She a professional now. I mean, girlfriend sent in the tape. It had subtitles on it. Becca was in the bed. It's like, how am I not gonna give this role to Becca? I mean, it's like, but that just shows you how big Princess's heart is and how much she supported her fellow performers. Yeah.
Before we bring the three lead actors down, just one more question, and then we'll bring the actors down, have them speak, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. Now that we've had a little bit of time and space away from the film, away from the heart of the pandemic, what do you want people to walk away with, you know, from this film? I know that yours isn't very specifically about the pandemic as much as Pandemic Bread, but is there a particular message that you hope that people will take away?
I think my message for the film was like, it's okay if things are complicated. Like not everything needs to be kind of presented in a gift wrap. There's always room for complexity, and in that complexity lies a lot more depth in the human experience.
Thank you so much for that. Z?
I think the message, or people were,
Well, people have moved on from the pandemic,
that's a problem.
you know?
Mhm.
And so this is a reminder of some of the stuff that we all collectively went through. Is there something that you want to make sure that people don't forget, or a big takeaway that you hope that they carry with them?
I think that the hopeful takeaway from Pandemic Bread is that we don't forget. It's that people push the pandemic out of our minds or out of our experiences because it was such a painful time. But you know what? Pain is a part of being a human being.
That's right.
And if we don't learn how to accept it, hold it, live with it, and then, yeah, hopefully eventually move on, then we're not going to be doing well, which is kind of what's happening in the larger world right now as we speak, is we're not dealing with stuff. And so I'm hopeful that this will make people more reflective and more okay with living with grief or living with pain, and then also just like, yo, Ginobili is surfing at the end of the movie,
Yes,
yo.
yes.
I surf, y'all, so that's like a big deal for me. So it's like, there's life, there's hope. If you get on a surfboard, we're San Diego, you know what the deal is, right? So there's resilience that happens. And so that's the important thing that I think I want people to try to remember.
Thank you so much for that. And with that, let's bring down our 3 lead actors. Becca Godinez, Princess Punsalan, and Claire Simba. And we're so grateful they came down despite the SAG, what's going on with SAG right now, the strike. They are allowed to speak, so we're very, very excited. For those who don't know, Princess is like legit legendary actor who's been in over 800, film, TV, radio, podcasts, commercials, and so forth. And Becca is also she is a pop star. So we're just very excited to have her, and Claire, she has her acting chops as well. So please let's welcome them. A big warm welcome to San Diego. All right, so let's just kind of open it up, like seeing this story. I mean, we shot this when? July last year.
May, June.
Wow, you look so different from the hospital bed, Becca. It's really amazing. Princess, thank you so much for getting us. Becca, Claire, thank you so much for coming all the way down. By the way, is this Becca's first acting role? Was that Becca's first acting role? And it's all thanks to you, Princess. Why don't we go down and just kind of share with share with the audience kind of your own experience in this, and then also like you all probably have something personal that you brought to the set with you, and if you could talk a little bit about that. So we'll start with you, Princess.
Okay. When I received an email from Christina Ree, right away I thought, yes, this is a film that needs to be done. It needs to be made, and I think people would love to watch something that will bring back something in their memory to help them heal. And I've seen so much grief during the pandemic. And I have a friend who died, and I have friends who have gone through working with the COVID units. And I know how hard it was, and I think it's a good avenue for people to continue to heal.
I was actually in the hospital because my heart stopped, and that was on April the 20th of 2020. So I have the personal experience of you're alone, no one's allowed in there. And so I drew on that. The other thing that was important, well, first of all, the honor of working with Zeinabu, who I met along with 15 other people, I think, on Zoom, and made me read. And I have this lady to thank for insisting that I audition. I'm actually a theater actress. Anyway, so there are words that I heard, and I want to associate this with the pandemic, which is a person dies twice. Your physical death, and you're alone. You're in the hospital, there's no one with you, you die alone. Your second death, and I'm going to associate this with COVID, is that if no one talks about it, you died a second death. The importance of your existence, the importance of this whole COVID experience. And that was my takeaway.
And Claire.
Yeah, well, for me, this movie came to me at a point where during the pandemic, I was pregnant of my third child, and my husband is a physician, so every time he would come home from being outside, from being exposed, coming home to us, to our kids, and me being pregnant, being, high risk. And at the time that I was pregnant, the CDC was telling us pregnant people not to get vaccines. So I was very, very exposed. So also a very good friend of mine was an infectious disease specialist working in the COVID unit, going through a burnout. So when that role came to me, I had the perspective of what it is to be a physician going through this. The fear that you carry and the responsibility that you carry, your loved ones at home that you want to protect, and your patients that you want to protect. So it was kind of being given the opportunity to give a homage to the people in my life that were heroes. So thank you for that.
Princess, you never had to interface with them, right? You were just kind of on your own, like in your own little world, like the true pandemic. And then Becca, you got to interface with Claire during the hospital scene, but at the same time.
Sorry, that's not quite
Oh,
true.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, you didn't know.
Okay.
Miss Princess was behind the curtain.
Oh, okay. Well, you have to tell that story.
Yes, we filmed at the UCSD Sim Laboratory because they had the most hospital-looking rooms. But Princess was behind the curtain where the monitor was, so she's feeding lines to Becca and to Claire the whole time. So she was there. She was there.
Princess, you're full service. You really, it's pretty amazing. You're full service. I guess what I wanted to talk about was that last big scene, which is, Becca, you have to be all out. And then Claire, you and Princess have to hold everything in. And that tension, and you all really showed up, and and can you just talk about how you were able to hold in, but we saw it, we saw it all. So if you can talk a little bit about that kind of, the opposite ends of that spectrum, how you all had to play that.
Okay, so as a person working in the healthcare, I know how it is to try to appear and sound like you have no opinion. But inside, you're feeling something and your mind is saying another thing. So I had to find a way to sound like I had no opinion, but my face showed that, hey, I'm feeling something there. So that was the challenge for me.
I said the experience at the hospital alone, the breathing difficulty, I pulled on that. The being all out and really expressing what this, you see little bits and pieces of her earlier. She's a lively woman, she dances, she eats, and then to be confined to this situation. But I think that the reality of death, I had hoped that I gave it enough expression. And on the first scene, I'd never done a movie. So I imagined in my head, cut, and all of this, and I had no experience. And so I went there and I gave my first full take, and I stopped. She was behind the curtain going, saying, and then after it was all over and it was so intense, Zeinabu, I don't know if you remember this, got up from her chair, walked over to me, leaned on my shoulder and bawled her eyes out. I knew then from her that she had lost someone in her family, and my husband had just lost his brother a few months before, so it was intense, and that's what I pulled from.
Yeah, I agree. Being on that set was, you could feel that people had so much respect and everyone had been touched at some level by COVID. For me personally, it was really about respect. Being on that set with you, she gave so much. It was about giving her space to be a witness and not making it about anything else than that. This is not about my character. And so having the respect to say this is not my story was the drive-through. Yes, my character has their point of view that they have to defend, but this is not about me. And that's also okay.
Thank you for sharing that, Claire. And I think we're going to open this up to questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We have about 7 minutes, so please raise your hand. But I just wanted to point out that you had to act with your eyes in that scene. We couldn't see your whole face, so that's just like taking it again to that very, very next level. So thank you for that. Do we have any questions for anyone, including Emory? Yes, over here.
Hi. I was just going to say, you know, these incredible films, so thank you for coming and sharing these. Also, in both of your films, there are kind of the question of rituals, right? Rituals of the everyday, they're very important. And even the way you kind of begin to assemble the medication, the testosterone, right, becomes a kind of ritual, right? The baking of the bread, all of these things together. And I was just wondering if, I don't know, either of you or both of you or some of the actors as well, would be willing to speak about kind of that relationship and the importance of rituals in films.
Go ahead.
Thank you for your question. In my film, I was really interested in seeing, kind of like looking at the everyday, what are the rhythms and rituals that we kind of go through. And while it might seem to be sometimes sort of mundanity, it's not too interesting. But in this film, I was kind of exploring, kind of being inspired by the work of Jose Esteban Munoz, kind of the potentiality within these rituals and within these everyday emotions, and how at any point a history can be summoned through a certain remembrance. And in this film, kind of when we were talking with our Farah, our cinematographer, finding ways to kind of visually communicate the shift between the ritualistic everyday, moving into something that's more eventful with the switch in the camera. So I was really interested in seeing, like, even though something might be kind of sometimes blending in and kind of rolling into its own flow, there's always a possibility of something else erupting.
I think for me also it has to do with that with my films, if you see other films that I've done, it's about altars. Altars are really important to me. Yes, I'm a recovering Catholic, but I also have a deep respect for my ancestors and my family members who are no longer with me physically in the body, but they're here spiritually. And so I wanted to try to honor that to the different altars that you saw with each of the characters. So that was important to me, kind of marrying Christian spiritual practices with more African identified or African derived spiritual practices as well.
And we also, can I also give a shout out to Mark and his brother. Mark, who is your partner as well, and who wrote the screenplay. The film was dedicated to his brother, and we saw a picture of him too. So that was, it was very nice that you were able to bring that in. So just wanted to, mention that. Any thoughts on rituals that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think because of the heaviness of that time in our lives, and we don't know how to actually combat the virus at that time, how to handle situations as grave as that, and people dying everywhere. It felt like, when is this gonna end? It's so heavy, it's so dark, it felt like it's so hopeless, and people got into doing things over and over because we wanted to hold on to something, to give us hope, to give us something joyful in our lives, or at least something that we can look forward to give us hope, to give us something to help us go through the difficulty. So I think that was how rituals helped us go through and get past all the difficult times.
I think there was hope.
I just want to add one last thing. Actually working on set with Z, she she talked a lot about how she collaborates with people on set, and our altar, the altar of this doctor, was actually a great collaboration because originally I'm from Cameroon, which is in West Africa, and I am a Sawa. My tribe is a Sawa. We are people of the water, and any of our big celebration, birth, death, everything includes water. And so when we prepared our altar, I asked her, can we bring in water? Can I speak my language? And she was like, yes, and yes, and yes. And so we were all on set able to bring a piece of our own story to the biggest story, which is amazing.
Any other questions from the audience? Comments? Yes, up there.
Hey, Leanne, it's Wilfredo.
Oh, hi, Will.
Great job as usual. I noticed that Princess's character was reading Meredith's novel, The Mango Bride.
Yes,
That
yeah.
was pretty clever.
Good eye, good eye.
So I was wondering if there are any updates on the movie and if any of you are going to be involved in it.
Can you say anything about it?
I don't know.
The Mango Bride actually got cast and it was considered for a film before Pandemic Bread. And there are some top actresses that have already been tapped to play, but one of the ones sadly left us, passed away, and so they're going to have a recast. I don't think, are you in it? I am.
All right, yes, over here, Joseph.
Oh no, I work with Marivi on Mango Bride too.
Oh,
so
okay.
we just finished and they're actually in the Philippines finalizing some of the script stuff, and then we're gonna do the California scenes in the near future. So hopefully next year.
Thank you for the 411, the behind the scenes, Joseph. That's very, very nice. We have time for one more question. Anyone in the audience?
Oh.
Me too, I have a question.
Oh, for you. Okay. Okay.
No, go ahead. Yeah. My question is to the audience. What did you remember or how did the films make you feel? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Ellie.
Oh.
Made her sad.
Okay, Ellie.
Made her sad.
Oh, she said it made her sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that your daughter?
Yeah, that's my
Oh. Said it like very dramatically. Yeah, it's very sweet. Anybody else want to answer Princess's question? Yes, go ahead.
Albert.
My name is Albert. I'm in the movie myself. So, well, first of all, thank you for being down here. Thank you, Z, for making this movie, and thank you for same way. That's a wonderful film. My brother passed because of COVID in 2022, and this film is like a reminder, of the struggle of those who died and the loved ones that we left behind. So that's my take on it, and that's why when Mark said, Albert, I want you to be part of this, I said yes. Well, let's do it.
Albert is the voice of Mr. Abad, and the one who has a problem. and also Albert was amazing in helping us with the Tagalog translation as well.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
Mark.
Claire, you had a question?
I had a question for you.
Okay, so we're ending with Claire's question. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I love this. I've never had people on the cast ask.
I know, right?
This is wonderful.
I was an
Yeah, right, sure, that's right. Go like they're eating it up. Go for it.
I had a question. In your film, there seemed to be like a second character, which is the blanket, a third character, which is the blanket, with the stain and the blanket being taken somewhere. And so I did not understand the stain and where was the blanket being taken. And then at some point you put your hand like that, and it was almost as if there was some sort of emotional attachment to it. So I was just wondering if you could talk about the
Yes, it's a great question.
Thank you for your question. And I guess this kind of comes back to the pandemic, in which in times of isolation, we kind of draw ourselves really closely to what we surround ourselves with. Sometimes those are objects that carry very much a lot of weight in history. And so in the film, I was interested in having this blanket kind of serving as could be a family heirloom, but also at the same time, something that the character has traveled a long time with. And so it's been with them through basically kind of transitioning and transforming. So in terms of like the stain on the blanket, I was intending for that to be like a period stain. So kind of marking that multiplicity of self. And so in terms of this idea of trying to separate from the past and trying to return the blanket back home, and then not returning it, in a way it's kind of like re-engaging in a sense of the inner child as well.
Wow.
I'm sorry that wasn't clear.
That was a great last question to end it on. Can we go really quickly down the row and just share with what's going on next? Do you have a next project or anything? How can people follow you, or just one last word if we can go down the line.
I just really want to shout out Rizella Javier.
Yes!
Because when I was in Real Voices in 2012, she was a very strong supporter and very warm and friendly to me. And I didn't think I could kind of come to be a filmmaker, but I know Rizella gifted me like a textbook on photography that I still have, and so I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you, Rizzy.
In terms of what's next, I am right now exploring with some more experimental stuff. I've been interested in seeing how, as someone who kind of passes as a trans person, how my subjectivity is sometimes infiltrating more normative spaces is kind of interesting to me, and trying to see how I reflect and engage with that. Thank you.
Hi, so I am Claire Simba. You can follow me on hashtag Claire Simba. Simba like the lion. Next, if you're into theater, if you're into Shakespeare, in February, March, I'll be at Antaeus Theater Company in LA in the Winter Sale. And actually, I was very inspired by Z. And during the pandemic, I happened to have written my a comedy, a web series comedy about what it is to go through the pandemic as a Black non-American woman in America, and the perspective on that being in an intercultural, interracial relationship, blah blah blah. And so I wrote the web series, and it's gonna come up very soon. So if you follow me on Claire Simba, you'll see it. It's funny.
Thank you.
Okay, I will have a concert next year. I'm actually a singer-songwriter, producer, and so I will have a concert next year, but that's towards the end of next year. I have for many years put together little bits and pieces of lyrics and songs and tempos spoken with theater, because I'm more in the theater. So I'm hoping by next year, if not next year, at least the beginnings of a musical that I hope to write. And so it's gelling better, and I've had enough production. I've been in the production realm, in the directing realm, in the acting and singing and all of that, and I feel confident. But on the other side of that, I have a business, and I actually have sausages. I am in 29 supermarkets. I'm in 48 stores. Chorizo de Bilbao, Cebu style chorizo, and my third one is coming out in possibly February or March. It's called Linguiza Filipina. That's the other side of me.
I totally did not expect that. All right.
Okay, pretty soon I'll be starting doing a voice dubbing for a foreign TV show that's going to be on Netflix. And then when the strike is over, I'm going to be doing something for TV.
Oh.
Very mysterious.
She was,
Oh, I know. You can't say.
Zip it. All right.
Yeah, she can't say.
All right.
Yeah.
And we're going to end with Z.
Okay, so I would really like to expand these stories. There's other stories that were in the Decameron project. Pandemic Red was just one of them. So my dream would be to expand this and make it into either a series or a feature. But I'm also working on another experimental documentary on Sojourner Truth, Phyllis Wheatley, and Marie Joseph Angelique, enslaved women of the North. And so I'm actively in development and research on that one. But I want to work with these ladies again. Something fierce.
Let's make it happen.
So I gotta make it happen.
Maybe a documentary about sausages. Right, some sausage making. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give one more round of applause to our filmmaker.